Superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.
Sasso insecticide spray and coil.
And good evening, welcome. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live from Anisha Abata, Desawe Kanda, also live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook and on DSTV channel 279. We're all across the world on 3news.com, also on TV3 Ghana on YouTube and on X. Coming up tonight, let's go straight into the matters. As today, we give you an update on the detention of the former Finance Minister, Kenneth Nana Ofori-Atta. His lawyers have been speaking, plus also what happens after this period of his detention. We'll tell you exactly what the expiration date of his other visas are. Stay with us. We've got all of that information for you on Ghana Tonight. Also, the president, John Dramani Mahama, has been speaking about the assault of a journalist with Class FM by some persons, civilians, and also officers of the Ghana National Fire Service. He says these officers have been interdicted. The latest on this, stay with us, plus the proposal of a media levy to replace the TV license fee. Stay with us. We've got all of that tonight. Also, the National Union of Ghana Students, NUGS, they're raising concerns about their being sidelined in a newly constituted governing board of the Scholarship Authority. But the Education Ministry insists there is no cause for alarm. We hear from them. Stay with us. We've got details for you. It's always an integral part of the conversation. The hashtag is Ghana Tonight on Facebook and on X. Let's hear from you. Let's settle for Ghana Briefs.
The minority in Parliament has delivered a scathing verdict on John Dramani Mahama's first year in office, describing it as a relapse into economic experiments, lawless governance, and predatory partisanship, rather than the reset promised by the government. At a press conference addressed by Deputy Minority Leader Patricia Pj, the minority criticized the administration for failing to manage public resources responsibly.
A relapse into dangerous economic experiments, a relapse into lawless governance, a relapse into predatory partisanship, a relapse into patterns of deception that Ghanaians have seen before and rejected before.
The Ghana National Fire Service personnel involved in the assault of the class media journalist in Kaswa has been interdicted pending investigations. President John Mahama, making a public commentary on the matter for the first time, expresses revulsion and distaste for the rampant assault on journalists in line of duty. The president reiterated his comment during a working visit to 3 state media organizations.
The Minister of Government Communication has taken it up. I think the officers have been identified, they've been interdicted, and an investigation is ongoing. But we won't countenance assault on journalists here.
Vice President Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman has reiterated government's commitment to the fight against corruption in the country. Speaking at the 93rd Jalsa Salana Ghana, the National Convention of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Mission, the VIP also highlighted that the Mahama administration is progressing with the Gomwa Pomaze initiative. This project will provide 100,000 birds under the Nkoko Kitten Kitten initiative.
We are moving forward with the Pomaze Poultry Initiative, which is designed to include purpose-built facilities for about 100,000 birds, modern feeding systems, a feed mill, and environmentally responsible waste management. This initiative aligns directly with our national objectives under the Feed Ghana and Nkoko Kitten Kitten to strengthen domestic poultry production and significantly reduce reliance on imports by 2028.
The immediate past president of the National Association of Graduate Teachers, NAGRAT, has called on organized labor to adopt new and smarter strategies in dealing with what he described as increasingly sophisticated governments. Speaking at the handing over ceremony, Angel Kabonu urged labor union leaders to prioritize research and data-driven engagement while negotiating with government on conditions of service and salaries.
We are facing changes at our terrain. Now the youth all over Africa want to be heard. What strategies are we developing to accommodate some of these changes? Because if we don't, we'll be swept away by the realities of the time.
There's more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. This is Ghana Tonight. Coming up next, Kenneth Nanayo Ofori-Atta remains detained in the U.S. That what we do know right now, but that is really mean that his move to Ghana in terms of the extradition efforts doesn't make it any easier with his detention by ICE. Stay with us. We've got a conversation on this, but the latest from his lawyers. That's the lawyers, one of the lawyers for Kenneth Nanayo Ofori-Atta, that is lawyer Frank Davis, has been speaking, is explaining the circumstances that led to his detention in the United States and how they hope to secure his release. We'll hear from him shortly. Earlier when he spoke to Joy News, we'll recall that in a bit. But then again, let's show you pictures of what we do know about this detention center. This is the Caroline Detention Center in Virginia in the United States. And this is the how the detention center looks like in terms of the sitting area, then also where the detainees are kept. We'll give you an idea of how the rooms also look like. This is it. This is the Caroline Detention Center. Shortly, we'll show you a Google Earth image of the location of this particular detention center that we're talking about. And I tell you what, that has also generated conversation about what this detention center really is and the history behind that. Here's what we do know. This is it. This is where this detention center is located, the Caroline Detention Center in Virginia in the United States, right? We'll put that on the screen right now. And this is it. This is where Kenneth Ofori-Atta is being kept right now. Okay, when we zoom in closer, this is the facility that we're talking about here. Okay. This is it. This area. This is the location as we have it. And it is this particular facility which ICE is using as a detention center for persons who are either going through a process of seeking asylum in the United States of America And also, as we did see in the letter by Ken Ofori-Atta's lawyers, persons who have overstayed their welcome, especially in the United States. It's a commitment by the United States government to ensure, at least after Donald Trump took over a couple of years ago, to ensure that, look, the persons who are staying in the United States illegally are made to face the full rigors of the law. So this is the facility in question right now. This is where the interest of all Ghanaians who have been asking questions about the whereabouts of Ken Ofori-Atta and whether or not he's going to come to Ghana after this detention. Well, this is it. You should pay attention to this particular area. We'll tell you a bit more about this location as we go on here on Ghana Tonight. But Frank Davis is one of the lawyers for Kenneth Ofori-Atta. As a former finance minister, he's been speaking to Joy News, giving some details about exactly how all of this played out when he was picked up and how he's doing as we speak. Take a look.
There is nothing to be of any significant concern to the legal team, because what has occasioned is detention, so to speak, is a purely immigration matter, which is common and routine. Indeed, for whatever reason, if your visa stay or period is about to lapse and you have reasonable belief that you have to remain in the jurisdiction of the country for an extended period, you are allowed, as it were, put in a petition for your immigration status to be evaluated and determined. So it is customary with the U.S. immigration procedures and practices and processes. So it is nothing new. It is nothing new. So yes, the petition has been lodged with the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, which is popularly known as the ICE, and they are reviewing the petition. In fact, the counterpart legal team, our counterpart legal team in the United States,
right,
the team that our Attorney General and leader of the bar has described as a very experienced and cracked legal team, is working on the petition. And in the fullness of time, a determination will be made one way or the other, based solely on the merit of the petition. So there is nothing to be worried. I will not speculate and speak on that. That is not the reason why you called me. So let us focus on why you called. I'm not able to speak to that proposition that we have filed for an extended or permanent residency in the United States. Whichever environment you find yourself, you learn to adapt. Like I always say, the good Lord God is keeping Ken Ofori-Atta as he's keeping all of us. He will make do with the limitation of the circumstances now. And when the matter is determined, he will have his freedom and liberty today. So yes, it is not the best of facilities if you know that Caroline detention facility. But whatever it is, be that as it may, that is where the circumstances of his stay have found it. So he will learn to abide. That should tell you the sincerity of the man we are talking about. You have just said something which is quite poignant and significant. He could have opted for that option. But because he didn't have any intention to run away from this jurisdiction, he went purposely for a medical procedure. So that was why his visa, strictly speaking, his visa is supposed to lapse or determine on the 14th of February, St. Valentine's Day. But because he is still attending on to his medical procedure on the recuperative stage, he thought it wise to extend his stay so that he can still receive the best of medical treatment where he is. So yes, he could have opted for that option, but he didn't think it was necessary at the time, and it is not necessary now. The petition will be determined, and we will all know the outcome. The mere fact that he is in a detention facility will not absolve him of whatever medical treatment he's supposed to give. I mean, we all know the Americans and developed democracies of this world. We see it in the films of it. They are given the very best of treatment. The movies are there for us to evaluate. They are given the very best of treatment. So it has nothing to do with whether he will run a shortage of medical treatment or medical attention. Whatever is supposed to be done for him to stay strong and healthy will be done. I believe in that. Whatever the government has to do in the enabling circumstances, I believe that as this matter is unfolding, I mean, they'll come out with their own state. But for now, whatever we say is limited to. But the circumstances for one to be put in a detention center are separate, distinct, and essentially different from whatever faces a particular individual.
Well, so that's Frank Davis. He's one of the lawyers for the former Finance Minister, Kenneth Nana Ofori-Atta, and they did indicate a number of things, touching on the petition that Ken Ofori-Atta has actually put in place, specifically about his status in the United States, which is the reason why he's actually being held in this detention center in the first place. You hear Frank Davis describe this detention center as not the very best of places with the very best of conditions. Okay, this is what we know of the outside or the outskirts of this particular detention center. We showed you pictures of how it looks like inside, okay? But then again, it doesn't take away the fact that obviously this would not be a pleasant place to be as compared to here being at home, okay? But this is it. This is how, at least we do know from the eyes and the lenses of Google Earth, this Caroline detention facility, this is where it is in Virginia. This is how it looks like. And also a specific issue about where it is located, a very, very secure facility, as a matter of fact. And here's what we do know about this facility in terms of its history. I'm going to tell you about it. This is it. This Caroline detention facility is a 336-bed correctional facility located near Bowling Green, that's in Virginia, adjacent to Route 301. The facility is 6 miles north of the main entrance to Fort A.P. Hill. Surrounded by Army base. That's what you see, and that's what I was talking about, that this is in a secured facility, and it's in a very secured area. So where the former finance minister has been detained now, from what we do know about this particular facility, that is the Caroline detention facility, is surrounded by the Army base. It's not part of the installation of the Army, but actually surrounded by the Army base, and opened in September 1999, and also features a campus-style layout. And that's what we're going to put the pictures on the screen right now. I'll tell you why this has been described as a campus layout sort of detention facility designed to operate as a fourth-generation direct supervision facility, and then also low custody inmates from 6 jurisdictions and the Virginia Department of Corrections were housed at the facility until March 2017. Currently, through a contract with the Department of Homeland Security, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, that's ICE, this Caroline detention facility houses federal detainees who are undergoing the administrative process of either asylum in the United States or removal from the country. So take note of this. The detainees who are in this facility are undergoing the administrative process of either asylum in the United States or removal from the country. This is what this facility, Caroline Detention Facility, is indeed meant for and is doing essentially. Now, let's go on to Zoom right now and find out a number of things as to how this development impacts on the extradition request of Ghana, and then what more we do know about the other expiration date of other visas that Ken Ofori-Atta has. And joining us right now on Zoom is Manasseh Asare-Awene. He's an investigative journalist. He's been following through a story that he did, which is one of the reasons why Ken Ofori-Atta is being prosecuted right now by the Office of Special Prosecutor. He's joining us on Zoom right now. Manasseh, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, Alfred.
First off, let's confirm this. Frank Davis talks about his U.S. visa. I'm talking about Ken Ofori-Atta's U.S. visa expiring on the 14th of February. That's next month, Valentine's Day. Is this consistent with the information that you have?
Yes, I think I first gave this information on your show last year, and it is consistent that next month the U.S. visa will expire.
Now, what more do we know about the other visas that Ken Ofori-Atta has and the options and which countries that he still has valid visas to travel to?
Yes, he has valid visas to the United Kingdom and also to Canada. And then the UK visa will expire in 2032. The exact date is April 21st, 2032. That is when Ken Ofori-Atta's visa to the United Kingdom will expire. And then his Canadian visa will also expire in 2031, May. That's May 31st, 2031. His Canadian visa will expire. So these are the two foreign visas that are active on his passport now.
I see. When I say stay with me, and Martin Pibble is private legal practitioner, and he's also joining us on Zoom. Counsel, you've been on the heels of the Office of Special Prosecutor for allowing, quote-unquote, Ken Ofori-Atta to leave the jurisdiction, and that's one of the reasons why you are asking that the Special Prosecutor be sacked. Well, this is the development, okay? The Ken Ofori-Atta has been detained, and you've heard his lawyers. We have applied for his extradition to Ghana. That's the Attorney General through the Foreign Affairs Ministry. Does this detention in any way make that process of extradition easier? And as we're seeing it right now, how does that also impact on the extradition process? Does it have any correlation, any nexus with what is happening now? Did the U.S. authorities take interest in the extradition and to look a bit further into Ken Ofori-Atta's status, reason why he is here right now?
Okay. Yeah, all right. So on the matter of how easy would this arrest make the extradition, what I can say straight up, cut to the chase, we cannot readily say that this arrest by itself makes the extradition process easy. No, remember the two are separate. Currently, he's been arrested by ICE because of a visa violation, okay? That's his stay in America, right? And the extradition request is a separate request from the government of Ghana that he should he should be brought back to Ghana to face criminal charges, right, in the SML matter. So now that ICE is dealing with him, I made a point that where it could be a bit easy is the point of arrest. So now this is the point. Now that he's in the custody of ICE, he's fighting, including possibly going to court. So if ICE doesn't release him early and he has to go to court fighting ICE for his release, it is possible that the extradition request would travel to the point where he needs to be arrested. And if at the point that he needs to be arrested, he's in the custody of ICE, then it makes it easy. Because it's in the custody of ICE, I'm sure in American law, they would have processes in place to show that even where he's done with ICE, he cannot be released, but then he has to be transferred to the FBI, etc., for them to continue with the extradition proceedings. One of the key preliminary steps will be to arrest Ofori-Atta. So whilst he's battling ICE in court, if the extradition people finish early, that's get to the stage where they need to arrest him, and he's done with ICE and they're about to release, then the FBI and the justice can take him. You see, so it's not bad. It's not bad, at least for now. It's not bad. Let's just hope that our extradition request makes significant progress quickly. And the watchword here is quickly enough. So meaning also that if for the extradition proceedings, right? Before the actual court case starts, they will need to arrest him. So that's why I'm saying that if at the time they need to arrest him, he's still in the ICE custody, then it's easier. They will go do the arrest there. But as to whether they will transfer him to FBI, etc., I don't know. We'll cross the bridge when we get there. But the main thing is that once he's in custody, it's a bit easier because they'll go and do the arrest procedures in custody, okay? And also they don't have to spend time looking for him. Then the extradition proceedings will go to court. So it means that he can even be attending both courts, doing the ICE case and at the same time also attending the court for the extradition proceedings. Yeah, so it can be a bit easy only on the part of the arrest. At the time he needs to be arrested for the extradition proceedings, if he's still in custody in the ICE case, it's easier to arrest him.
I see. And Manasseh, I come back to you on and also this particular development with Kenneth Ofori-Atta being detained in this facility by ICE. And from your own following of this particular issue, taking into consideration how this has evolved over time till this moment that ICE is holding him regarding his current status in the United States, how does it strike you? Hello, Manasseh, can you hear us?
Hello, please, can you repeat the question,
I was saying that with this, how this matter has evolved over time, right from when he left the jurisdiction until now that ICE is holding him in this facility. I'm talking about the former finance minister. You've been neck deep into how this particular case regarding Kenneth Ofori-Atta has evolved over time. How does this development strike you with him being held in this detention because of his status in the United States?
Well, sometimes we look at the legal aspect of it. We also look at the practical aspect. I said on Daybreak some weeks ago that from my experience, this case could go beyond what the timelines people were expecting, that it would take, if they thought maybe it could take 5 years, it could take more than that. It could also take less, because beyond the legal aspect, there are also diplomatic and other channels. If the US today doesn't want any citizen in their country, someone like Kenneth Ofori-Atta, if they want Kenneth Ofori-Atta to be in Ghana by tomorrow, they can put him on the next available plane. And I said that I have read stories about people who have had their visas revoked. They did not overstay, but for one or two reasons. And then the explanation given by the authorities is that, look, we have given you the privilege to be in our country. It is not your right, so we can choose to do what we want. So what is happening? Two things. I think it makes it easier, and I may even suspect that a petition and the noise may have put the eyes of the authorities, drawn the eyes of the authorities to Kenneth Ofori-Atta. That is possible, even though it may not be related. It is possible that his detention now could, in a remote way, be influenced by the petition. That may not be the reason, but it would have taken eyes to him and they would go through, well, he even overstayed, so there is this other charge. So maybe someone can be, let's say, arrested for robbery, and in the process of the robbery, they may find out that he also raped someone. So all of these are possibilities. I'm not saying that's what it is. Two, it also in a way, should teach those who hold public office a lesson that, look, when you have the opportunity to serve your country, then do well to serve your country and serve it well. I don't think any minister of state, any MP, anybody in this country would want to be kept at this center, especially when you say you are there and the reason you are there is that you are not well. Even if he was a very fit and strong Ken Ofori-Atta, he wouldn't want to spend a night at this facility. That alone is humiliation. He went there for health care. Fair. But if we were to put our hospitals in order, and then we have very great medical doctors and health professionals who are leaving the country and working here in the US. So it is even possible that a hospital that Ken Ofori-Atta is being attended to or treated, there are Ghanaian doctors and medical personnel who are treating him there. If you read Obama's book, A Promised Land, he mentions the Walter Reed Medical Institute Center, where US presidents go to have health care.
Right.
He was praising how immigrants had come and they were working hard at this facility. And when I read that book, one thing that stood out for me was that when he was mentioning the nations where these workers came from, he mentioned Nigeria. So what is the point? We have dedicated, hardworking medical personnel who are in countries like the US, Africa, taking care of presidents and ministers and important people here. Yet our own people, when they fall sick, have to travel and come here. And the main reason, in my view, is not that we don't have qualified and dedicated health practitioners.
Right.
We have them, but people like Ken Ofori-Atta, who have the opportunity to govern the country and resource our hospitals, would rather invest in schemes such as SML. And so what is happening, I just want us to look at it even beyond Ken Ofori-Atta and look at leadership in general and what that says about us.
I see, and I do thank you for this. And also, Lawyer Matikbebe is still with us. Lawyer, I'm going to come to you in a bit. But if you go on the Immigration and Custom Enforcement, that's the ICE website, that's the Homeland Security in the United States, this is what they have there. If you do the search on Kenneth Ofori-Atta, you will have this information. We're going to put that on the screen right now. His full name there, country of birth, Ghana, status in ICE custody. That's Kenneth Ofori-Atta's status right now as captured on the official website of the Department of Homeland Security. And then that's the state of Virginia. And the current detention facility, as we have showed you, is Caroline Detention Facility. That is this particular location, as we've been showing you all the while. So that is the information that you would find on the Department of Homeland Security's website and giving more details about this particular location right now. And Lawyer Matikbebe, you a few weeks ago had put out some information that you had picked up that Ken Ofori-Atta was working on getting a permanent stay in the United States of America. And this particular development, as captured in his lawyer's statement they put out yesterday, that Ken Ofori-Atta has a pending petition for adjustment of status. What the expression they use there is that he has a pending petition for adjustment of status, which authorizes a person to stay in the United States legally past the period of validity of their visa. Does this give any vindication to that statement earlier?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So we'll start with the lawyer's letter. So the lawyer, that is the Menka Premu, they admit that Ofori-Atta has a pending petition before the immigration authorities of the U.S. to adjust his status in the U.S. That phrase, to adjust his status in the U.S., that's the part of it that says that he's applied to change. So he wants to become a permanent resident. That's why he has a pending petition to adjust his status. So pending petition for permanent residence. You know, I had mentioned earlier that the information I got about two months ago was that his son had applied for him to become a permanent resident. So the son is a citizen, right, of the U.S., and he has applied for Ofori-Atta to become a permanent resident. I know it takes some time. And so that's the process that he's going through. Yes, if you're a citizen of the U.S., you can file for your father, you can file for your mother, but it takes some time. And that's what he's going through. right? So I'm happy that you see the lawyers have corroborated it. Some, as I said a few months ago, about 2 months ago, when I first mentioned it, people were asking for my source, and even some others doubted it. But now there you have it in the lawyer's letter saying that he has a pending petition to adjust his status in the U.S. That's to change from visitor's visa to become, or a visitor, okay, or a person on business trip, to becoming a permanent resident. So from the name permanent resident, it means that he'll be permanently resident in the U.S. Of course, he can travel all along. I mean, he can travel anywhere he wants to go and come back freely, better than those who use the B1, B2 visas. When we say B1, B2, that's the normal visitor's visa or business trip visa. When you're a permanent resident, it gives you more rights in the American society, etc., rather than going on a visitor's or business trip visa. Yeah, so that is what it is. And you remember, at that time, we complained vehemently that, was it that the OSU was delaying the trial in absentia to give Ofori-Atta more time in his application to become a permanent resident? Because it didn't make sense. Why all this while the special prosecutor was fighting that, no, they will not do trial in absentia. They will not do trial in absentia from January. Then eventually in November, they now say, yes, they will do it. After giving Ofori-Atta about 1 year, you see, to consider his options. That was really, really unfair. And that's how come we keep saying we want accountability, that the special prosecutor be dealt with according to law.
Well, I thank you very much, Lamont Gbagbo. Thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. And then also, Manasseh Azura-Winning, thank you so much for joining us, an investigative journalist. Manasseh, thank you. There's a bit more of this that we're going to be sinking our teeth into in the coming days, so stay with us. This matter is unfolding thick and fast, and the good thing is that, as with the United States, matters of such nature, you would have publicly available and verifiable documents that you would see. So everything that we're putting on the screen, you out there watching us can go on the website of the Department of Homeland Security, check it out for yourself, okay? And then also the detention center, what we are showing to you is publicly available and verifiable data that you can find as well watching us. So please stay with us on this as we go every step of the way. But here's what we do know. So after the detention, what next? What next after the detention? This is how the coming days will look like for Ken Ofori-Atta. This is it. The initial process is that there's going to be the fingerprints, photos taken, personal belongings confiscated. That is whatever he had on him at the time he was picked up. This is the first stage, which we believe has been done already. Then next, ICE would determine if the person is a flight risk, national security, public safety threat, or if humanitarian factors such as, take note of this, serious medical condition, primary caregiver, warrant of release on condition or mandatory detention. So, as we do know that Ken Ofori-Atta went through a medical surgery, we understand that he is recuperating, he's recovering. As to the state of his recovery, will determine how long he will be kept in this particular detention facility, because that's the part of the factors that would influence the custody decision. You'll find this on the ICE website as well. The next point is the detainees are held in these ICE detention centers, local jails or military bases, and can be transferred between facilities. So that's also something that could play out. But then again, as we do know, the Ken Ofori-Atta status is not one that fits into the what has been described in these other persons who could be moved from one facility to the other. In terms of communication, they get limited phone calls, that's often collect, and may have access to tablets for communication with funds added by the family. The calls are also monitored. The government doesn't provide a lawyer. Detainees must find their own or access legal aid or law libraries. That's why we got clearly the information from that's the statement from Ken Ofori-Atta's lawyers yesterday, that their counterparts in the United States are working around the clock to get Kenofriata out of this facility. So he already has the legal help as per the information contained in the statement from his lawyers yesterday. They have constitutional rights, including to remain silent. They have to stay calm during encounters, but conditions can be harsh with reports of medical neglect and isolation. And you heard Frank Davis corroborate this particular point, that from what he has also read and been told, the conditions in this Caroline detention facility in some cases could not be one that will be too welcoming. That's also what you find in here. And in terms of the immigration court and what's going to be happening, because then Kenofriata has a petition, okay? It's going to go through the process. A judge hears the case. First hearings are often weeks after this particular process of the initial detention, usually via video. And then detainees can seek bond, that is money deposit, for release, or be released on recognizance. That's their own promise to appear. So the recognizance is dependent, and it is not essentially a right. It is the prerogative of the judge who's sitting, and then also whether or not this particular individual is a flight risk and others, they'll take all of that into consideration. So we'll see how things will play out in the coming days. And on the matter of deportation, a number of you are asking, now that he's been detained and we have a deportation request for him, that's what you heard lawyer Martin Pebo say, that it's not a straightforward matter. Okay? It has to go through a process as well. If the judge orders removal, that is, if ICE carries it out, though appeals of voluntary departure, that is living at the own cost of the person, might also be an option. So the deportation of Kenofriata is predicate or dependent on the judge giving this said order, taking into consideration all matters at play. So we're going to see how things play out in the coming days on this particular issue. So stay with us. A lot more of this on TV3 Ghana, on 3FM 92.7 across all media journal platforms. And this is it. You'll find all of this information as we've detailed on TV3 Ghana on Facebook and also on 3news.com, so that you can also follow every step of the way. Coming up next year on Ghana Tonight, the National Union of Ghana Students, NUGS, they are raising concerns over exclusion from the Scholarship Authority Board. The Education Ministry has been responding to this. Exactly why do they have a concern in there? It's one that we'll get into shortly. But good thing is we have the president of the National Union of Ghana Students also joining us to have his take on this. Rashid Ibrahim is connecting with us on Zoom right now. Rashid, good evening. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good evening, Alfred.
Great. Now, the ministry is saying that that's the National Union of Ghana Students, is adequately represented on the governing board of the Scholarship Authority. In fact, they are dismissing your concerns raised earlier in that statement you put out. Now, just for the benefit of the uninitiated, we're going to put on the screen the specific concerns of NUGS, that's the National Union of Ghana Students, as to why they have not been represented, or the student body has not been represented on the newly constituted board of the Scholarship Authority. They say they express deep concern and principled objection to the inauguration of the Scholarship Authority Board in its current composition, owing to the complete absence of the student representation. Students are not incidental stakeholders within the scholarship framework. They are its core purpose. Scholarships exist to promote equity and expand access to education and secure the academic futures of students, particularly those from vulnerable and disadvantaged backgrounds. A governing board established to oversee such a mandate, yet constituted without the voice of students, raises serious questions of legitimacy, fairness, and democratic accountability. So these are the concerns, okay? And then the Ministry of Education issued a statement also responding to these concerns. And we're going to put that on the screen right now. And Rashid, this is in response to these concerns that you put out there. They say that you are adequately represented and that the civil society organizations' representation on this particular newly constituted Scholarship Authority Board represents your interests as student bodies. Does that address your concerns?
Okay. Thank you for having me here, and I wish to greetings to your listeners and viewers as well. Greetings to your listeners and viewers.
I can hear you. I can hear you and see you. So keep talking and don't watch the television. Okay. Right.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, so I think prior to the enactment of the Act, that is the Scholarship Authority Act, we were made to understand, that is, if you look somewhere in last year, the middle of last year, there was some issues concerning the same omission of NUCs from the Scholarship Authority Board. In fact, my predecessor wrote letters in response to that. So they suspended the passage of the bill. And then they said they called for a stakeholders engagement to make sure that NUCs is actually represented on the Scholarship Authority board. In fact, that was assurance given then. And the bill was laid before Parliament again for its passage, and then it was successfully passed. In fact, it has been passed, and now it is an act of Parliament. Yesterday, the board was inaugurated, and then it will interest you to know that there was no student rep on the board, but the statement that the ministry has released is not in response with what we wrote. That is not part of our demands, because if you say that civil society organization, NUCs should be subsumed under civil society organization, that cannot be the law. Because if you look at GETFund is also established by an act of Parliament. If you look at the composition of NUCs there, it states clearly, expressly, unambiguous, that the National Union of Ghana Students should nominate a student to be on the board of GETFund. Why can't we do same when it comes to student scholarship authority? Because we see that scholarship is something that borders on students. And if you are coming to administer something that borders on students, this is not, scholarship is not meant for market women. It is not meant.
But Rashid, they say, and I'm going to read what is on the screen. They say, through an inclusive process, it was concluded that civil society organizations will be the umbrella body on the governing board. Accordingly, the National Union of Ghana Students, NUGS, is rightfully represented on the board in accordance with the provisions of the law. So the CSO rep is your rep. They are encouraging you, the leadership of NUGS, to engage with your immediate past leadership to fully acquaint yourselves with the details of this representation and related processes. So, and they talk about commitment to transparency, inclusiveness, and collaborative governance in the management development in Ghana sector. But then again, have you contacted your predecessor? Because what the ministry is saying is that whatever they have done now, your predecessor committed to it.
Yes, thank you. I have done that. I have consulted my predecessor, and he has denied this categorically, that at nowhere was there an agreement that NUGS should be subsumed under CSO. It's never the case. It can never happen that way. It is very, very surprising, because how can GETFund on its own, NUGS was not subsumed under CSO? Why is it that Scholarship Authority, something that should be administered, should serve the interests of Ghanaian students, it's only for students? That student cannot have a student rep, but a civil society organization. We may have civil society organizations, many of them, but what we must ask ourselves is, are these civil society organizations indeed going to fight for the interests of Ghanaian students? Alfred, if you want to speak on journalism, I don't think that you call the Ghana Bar Association.
Well, now that the law has been passed, what's your expectation of the ministry?
Okay, what we're expecting is that we will be petitioning the minister together with the office of the president if they refuse to act on it. Because if you look at our demands, we need actually a sit-down approach. We need to engage more on it to have a solution to this menace. And we would be petitioning the office of the president, Speaker of Parliament, and also the Parliamentary Select Committee on Education. But in the alternative, what we are proposing is that the president actually have the right to revoke appointment. If you look at section 7 of the Scholarship Authority Act, that is what it states. The president has the power to revoke some appointment. And if you look at the powers of the president has the power to appoint 2 members on the board or 3 members on the board. What we are demanding is that the president can use this power to revoke one appointment and include one student rep there, whilst we actually work on amending the existing act under a certificate of agency. This can be done. I don't think that this is beyond the president, because as I stated earlier, scholarship is something that borders on the interest of students. Imagine if something is of a concern for students, how can a student pick a call and then call the Minister of State? How can a student pick a phone and call the President of the Republic? No, it is maybe the student that will be on the board that you call, that these are the challenges actually confronting the administration of the scholarship. If you go there, if you go to the board, these are what the legal procedures that you have to take to resolve our challenges for us. So we need a student rep to actually take over, to actually convey the concern of the students directly to the board to administer the scholarship. That is what we are calling for. So,
thank you very much. And we'll see how the coming days will look like on this. Ibrahim Rashid is the president of the National Union of Ghana Students, that's NUGS, and then their concerns about the constitution or the reconstituted Scholarship Authority Board. This is Ghana Tonight. We're back shortly after this quick break. We'll tell you what the president, John Dramani Mahama, has been talking about with regards to some officers of the fire service who were caught on camera manhandling a journalist. Stay with us. Welcome back. This is Ghana Tonight. Now, up next, interdictions over a journalist assault. President John Dramani Mahama has disclosed. And could a public media levy be in the offing? That's the question after the president's earlier visit today. The Ghana National Fire Service personnel involved in the assault of a class media journalist in Kaswa in the Central Region have been interdicted pending investigation. President John Mahama condemned the attack, expressing concern over rising assaults on journalists during a visit to selected state media organizations earlier today. Take a look.
Government communication has taken it up. I think the officers have been identified, they've been interdicted, and an investigation is ongoing. But we won't countenance assault on journalists.
Well, the president also hinted of a possible public media levy to replace the TV license fee regime.
There are few suggestions we have with regards to the so-called TV license. And I think that our thinking is going in the same direction to amend that law to make it a public media levy of some sort. And we're going to change the range of that levy so that it's better able to mobilize funding.
Well, on the matter of these service personnel, that's the fire service personnel who have been interdicted. Earlier, the fire service issued a statement indicating that they have constituted a committee to investigate the incident thoroughly and establish all relevant facts. And then also the fact that they condemn the attacks on its personnel. It equally frowns upon any form of physical or verbal assault on civilians by its personnel, regardless of the level of provocation. They're urging public to remain calm and exercise restraint while the investigations continue. And they remain committed to professionalism and accountability. But the president has already given us indication of what a possible outcome of the said investigation really is, and that these fire service personnel involved in the assault of the journalists in question have been interdicted. That is what we do know from the president today. There's more of this on 3news.com. Join us tomorrow for another conversation. It's a holiday, but we're going to be here to give you everything that you need to know. The New Day team will start the day for us. For this up-to-the-minute update on 3news.com, I am Alfred Conse. Have a good night.